Moving right along, colleagues, we've got a lot of items. The Assembly apparently is moving much faster than we. Let's go to AB 104, which is file item 81. File item 81. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 104 by the Assembly Committee on Budget and Act relating to Education Finance and making appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno, file item 81.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, this is the first of what will be 13 trailer bills. These trailer bills make statutory changes to implement the budget bill of 2015-16. This one being our omnibus pre-K to 12 education trailer bill. And it does a number of things, including paying down $3.8 billion of the state's K through 14 education mandates debt, with the intent of those funds to support professional development, beginning, teacher induction, and implementation of state-adopted academic content standards. This is all to ensure that our students have the best quality classroom experience that they deserve. It also provides $400 million for the first year of the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant Program. These funds will be distributed on a competitive basis, prioritizing applicants in areas of greatest need. And this was well debated in the Budget Committee and through conference, balancing the co-equal goals of quality programs as well as equal access to these grants. It establishes the adult education block grant program to build upon the local collaborative work of the past 2 years, and also provides adult education services through regional consortia. Also recognizes the bipartisan investment in early childhood education by providing increases to the license-exempt, regional market rate, and also the standard reimbursement rate to conform to the amount appropriated in the Budget Act. And lastly, it unifies state preschool into the Prop 98 guarantee. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Senator Fuller.
There are amendments on the desk.
All right, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Amendments by Senator Fuller, set 1.
Senator Fuller, you may proceed.
Members, there is a set of amendments on your desk. I rise in support of the proposed amendment to repeal the school district reserves cap enacted last year. I can add a perspective here, both as a state senator and as a superintendent. I also spent 30 years in public education, and I'm here to say that it just does not make sense to tell superintendents, school boards, and others that they need to plan ahead, spend wisely, and stay financially solvent, make the best decisions for their students, and then hamstring them with a law like this, at the same time claiming we are here to support greater local control. Budget reserves are important not only for planned expenditures and unplanned emergencies. They are a key factor in preventing school districts from having to come to Sacramento to seek emergency loans. And this is not just my opinion. It is a formal finding of the state's School Fiscal Crisis Management and Assistance Team, or FCMAC. FCMAC is the agency, the government agency, that is appointed over all school districts to be sure that their budgets are sufficient. And all budgets are reviewed by the county offices, and when they are found negative, it is their reserves that make the difference as to whether they're able to go on or have a state trustee appointed to stop spending. In fact, this legislative session, FCMAC Chief Executive Officer Joe Montero testified in the Senate Budget Subcommittee on Education and an Assembly Budget Subcommittee on Education that the new statute would have a negative effect on local educational agencies, particularly on small districts and basic aid districts, where there is a clear rationale to hold a higher balance than the required minimum. Members, some school districts during the time I was a school superintendent actually had to have classes on school buses because they couldn't replace heating elements in their schools, and they did not have sufficient reserves. Now, that was a long time ago, but it happens on a regular basis, that there are emergencies and that there are problems and that they can't wait. And that when they come to Sacramento, they often do not have much success. So please, we need to change and add this. We need to change the cap on the school district reserves. We need to realize that if we don't want school districts up here asking for emergency loans for things that they could have taken care of if they had had a rainy day fund of their own, which they, once they lose it, they will never gain again, that will make the difference for children having an appropriately equipped classroom and teacher or not in some district somewhere at some time. Thank you.
Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to lay this amendment on the table.
Amendment is non-debatable. Senator Monning is asking for an aye vote. Senator Fuller is asking for a no vote. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Cannella? No. De Leon? Fuller?
No.
No. Gaines? Galgiani? Glazer? No. Hall? Aye. Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Wisso? Aye. Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lada? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Aye. Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Runner? Stone? Vidak? No. Wachowski? Aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Gaines, no.
Please call
Block? De Leon? Aye. Galgiani? Leno, we have his aye. Roth? Runner? Stone? No.
Ayes 22, noes 14. The motion to lay the amendments on the table is adopted. Now to the bill in chief. Is there any debate or discussion on this measure? Seeing and hearing none. I'm sorry, Senator Allen, you wish to speak on this item?
I just wanted to say that I largely agree with the comments that were made by my colleague. I think there are other ways to address the concerns raised than in this particular context. I understand why she raised them, but I would like to work with her and others who feel the same way on that issue.
Any further debate or discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. With respect to Senator Fuller's introduction of the amendment, I just want to speak very briefly. The school district reserve cap was a last-minute introduction by the administration in last year's budget debate. As was stated by the Legislative Analyst's Office at the time and confirmed by the Department of Finance, the trigger on this cap is unlikely, if ever, to be pulled. With that said, there is provision in current law that county offices of education are authorized to exempt school districts under certain circumstances if the trigger were ever pulled. And lastly, the administration since then has repeatedly said that it is open to negotiations to revisit this. So this is an issue that, with the administration's leadership, can be and will be revisited in days to come. In the meantime, no harm, no foul. This trigger is far from ever being pulled. I ask for your aye vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Aye. Anderson? Aye. Bates? Aye. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? Block? Aye. Cannella? Aye. De Leon? Aye. Fuller? Gaines? Aye. Galgiani? Glazer? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Aye. Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Wisso? Aye. Huff? Aye. Jackson?
Aye.
Aye. Lada? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? I. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. I. Wynn. Nielsen. I. Pan. I. Pavley. I. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wachowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Berryhill. Fuller. Aye. Galgiani. Aye. Wynn.
Ayes 38, no 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Senator Fuller,
On condition of the file,
without objection.
since I didn't seem to be seen in the last comment, what I wanted to add before, so I will talk about condition of the file now, was that I intended to support the education bill, but I did appreciate that we were able to talk about the amendment. But overall, the education bill was an improvement. But since my mic was missed, this is the only way I know how to get that up for the record. Thank you.
And it will be duly noted, Senator Leno had closed. So, or at least at the point I saw, I think you had put your mic up after he started with his close, and it's my understanding at that point that we then end the discussion. But I appreciate your comments, and thank you for
I'll
bringing them
accept your
to us.
judgment.
All right, thank you.
But disagree.
Thank you very much. All right, next, we have file item 91. File item 91, AB 117. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 117 by the Assembly Committee on Budget and Act relating to public resources and making an appropriation therefore to take effect immediately. Bill related to the budget.
Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, so this is our general government and state administration trailer bill, and it does make statutory changes to implement the Budget Act and does just a couple of things. It amends the insurance law to ensure that debentures are paid in a manner similar to how general obligation bond debt is paid. It also makes a very slight change to our AB 900 law of a couple years back. It extends the sunset date of it for the particular purpose of environmental impact report certification for 2 projects that have already been deemed according to the thresholds of AB 900 to be environmental leadership projects. One is in San Francisco, one is in Los Angeles. The need for this is so that these projects, which already have deemed to be environmentally sustainable, transportation efficient, greenhouse gas reducing, and job creating, can complete their EIR certification so that their status is not lost. I ask for your aye vote.
Debate or discussion, Senator Vidak, followed by Senator Vidak.
I have amendments on the desk, Madam President.
All right. Secretary, please read. There are amendments at the desk, colleagues.
Amendments by Senator Vidak, set 1.
Senator Vidak.
Madam President, colleagues, the bill before us today is a giveaway to help billionaire NBA owners build an arena in San Francisco and a well-connected developer build an expensive housing project in Hollywood. I am asking for the same consideration to make it easier to build vitally needed water storages to provide clean water to disadvantaged communities. I am asking for the same consideration to make it easier to build water storage facilities to keep farm workers working instead of fallowing fields. The amendment I offer today very simply gives the same CEQA streamlining benefits you're giving to wealthy NBA owners and a Hollywood developer so we can build water projects that will benefit farm workers, small farmers, the poor living in disadvantaged communities. And I also see my colleague from the Central Coast is standing up for this noble endeavor, and I ask for your aye vote.
All right. There is a motion, Senator Monning. For what purpose, sir?
Yes, Madam President, I move to lay this amendment on the table with all due respect to my colleague from the Central Valley.
All right, very well. There is a motion to lay the amendments on the table. Senator Monning is asking for an aye vote. Senator Vidak is asking for a no vote. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. No Bates. No Bell. Aye. Berryhill. No Block. Aye. Canella. No De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. No Galgiani. Glazer. No Hall. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Hill. Aye. Weso. Aye. Huff. No Jackson. Aye. Lada. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leba. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Aye. Mitchell. Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. No Morrell. No Wynn. No Nielsen. No Pan. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Roth. Aye. Runner. No Stone. No Vidak. No Wachowski. Aye. Wolk. Wolk aye.
Please call the absent members.
Fuller. No. Galgiani. Hertzberg. Aye. Glazer. No to aye.
Ayes 25, noes 14. The motion to lay the amendments on the table is adopted. Is there debate or discussion on the measure at hand? We have Senator Cannella.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak too often,
Yes.
so
Thank you.
surprised.
Madam
Senator
President,
Cannella.
I wasn't planning on talking, but this is, since I've been in the legislature, we have talked time and time again about reforming CEQA, that it's a great law that does a lot of positive things, but in a lot of times it's misused and used as a weapon. And I'm a Golden State Warriors fan. I'm glad that they won the NBA championship. I think that's great for California. But to provide a CEQA exemption or fast track so they can build a new arena when we have Temperance Flat that's in the Central Valley, we're literally dying in the Central Valley because we don't have water. And we can't even get the Department of Water Resources to start to do their CEQA on that. And yet, for the Golden State Warriors, which we can all agree is a great team, to have an exemption or a fast track for CEQA when there are so many projects in my part of the state, very high unemployment, very high poverty, and we try to build things and we constantly get held up with CEQA. This is a little embarrassing that it's in a trailer bill. It should be, if it's good enough to be in law, it should go through a policy committee so that we can talk about it. But to jam it in a trailer bill where there's very little discussion is a little bit of an embarrassment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Cannella. Senator Berryhill.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I rise in opposition to this bill also. Listen, once again, we see the urban and coastal elites voting themselves special deals and exemptions to get their pet projects done. After 9 years of watching deals get cut to provide CEQA exemptions for stadium and pet development deals, we shouldn't be surprised that the needs of the entire states are being blatantly ignored. I've been one that's voted for these exemptions for 9 years. But as my colleague in the Central Valley just mentioned, when our commoners out there are trying to get deals done, sometimes those projects are held up for 4 and 5 years. Where are the CEQA waivers for the additional water storage that the voters of this state made clear that they want? This drought is the single largest issue facing California today. It's our jobs, it's our food, it's our communities, and yes, it's our environment. The voters made it crystal clear that they want water storage. This legislature committed to water storage just this last year, and now we hear nothing. Silence. It's time to follow through on the commitments made and focus on taking care of those we all serve. I'm not against stadiums and development projects. It's the absolute disregard of the rest of what's important of California that I'm speaking out today. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Senator Nielsen.
Madam Chair, members of the Senate, I have to just echo a sentiment following Senator Cannella. And it's related to something that really is important. Stadiums really are not. We can get by without stadiums. We can even get by without teams if they leave California. Now, I don't want that. I don't advocate for that. But I do advocate, if we're going to give benefit to such things as this, that we do pay heed to our highest priorities. Those are the necessities of life. Senator Cannella, Senator Berryhill have one of those necessities of life possible because of Proposition 1 in their area, Temperance Flat. We have another one up in Colusa County, county that Governor Brown kind of calls home, Sites Reservoir, that will provide for the generations, for our grandchildren. Should we not expedite CEQA for such things that are life necessities? I argue we should. All I then ask is when people like Senator Cannella or I or Senator Berryhill bring forward legislation to help us get water supplies for our grandchildren, we find favorable consideration with our colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. Senator Anderson.
Senators, I've served in the legislature. I believe this is my 9th year. And this is not the first stadium that we've waived or streamlined CEQA. And in each time, we throw our mic up and we say, doesn't all of California deserve jobs and opportunity? Don't we want to put everybody back to work? Because each and every time they say these are good union jobs. And that, you know, in the last go-around, I think they were saying that it was 22,000 jobs that they would bring to a community that needed those jobs. Let me tell you, friends, every district serving on this floor deserves those same jobs and those same opportunities. But as you heard from my colleagues from Northern California, it's worse than that. It's not only the opportunity that this brings to the workforce in those communities, but we're also talking about the lack of work in Central Valley and Southern California because we've failed to deliver water. We've failed to do our job in providing those opportunities. You know, in Central Valley, everyone gets it. Without water, you can't grow things. But in San Diego, if we have to ration water to businesses because we allow it to get to there, we're going to lose our Biocom cluster because Biocom uses water too. We're going to lose all these opportunities. So we say that we're for clean jobs. We say that we're for green jobs. We say that we're for skilled jobs. We're for all these things. And yet, today we're talking about cutting corners for just one project as opposed to streamlining the whole state. It makes absolutely no sense to vote for this limited form. In the past, I've always supported it. Today, I won't be supporting it because it's not good enough just to do it for one district. I want it done in every district. It's not good enough just to do it for one project so that there's a stadium and we'll have football when we allow people in Central Valley to starving them of their work and their opportunity. I don't want to starve anybody of opportunity. I want to give everyone in California that opportunity. So whatever works for this stadium, I believe works for the entire state. And we've got to open our hearts to think bigger than just one project, but include everybody's project, because every Californian deserves a step up. Every Californian deserves an opportunity to work and provide for their family. When you deny a man or a woman the opportunity to provide for their family, you're stripping them of their dignity. Let's restore that dignity because these people want to go back to work, and it's up to us to make it happen for them. So let's not think small. Let's go big. Let's be brilliant with our ideas, and let's deliver it for 40 districts, not just one. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Seeing no further debate or discussion, Senator Leno, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, please believe me when I say I understand the passion associated with the hardships caused by this drought. With that said, I hate to get a bit pedantic, but I'm going to have to because the level of misinformation that has just been shared with you all is stunning. Nothing of what you have heard is true or accurate. So I have to tell you what this actually does. A few years back, this legislature passed something called AB 900. It created a category known as Leadership Environmental Projects for those projects of over $100 million of economic generation to the state that create a certain level of employment, that's new jobs, that mitigate 100% of their greenhouse gas emissions, that deal with transportation efficiency. If they meet all of these thresholds, they get the designation as an environmental leadership project. AB 900 sunsets at the end of this calendar year. We have already approved, that means the governor with the legislature's concurrence, a number of environmental leadership projects. The very first was the new Apple headquarters on the peninsula in San Francisco Bay. There are two others, one for the Warriors Arena in San Francisco. The other is a mixed-use retail, commercial, residential project on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. They have already been deemed environmental leadership projects. What that affords them is not a waiver of CEQA. I'll repeat that, not a waiver of CEQA. It does not exempt these projects from CEQA. The benefit they get from the status is an expedited adjudication process should the CEQA review be challenged in court, meaning it must be determined within 270 days. That's the benefit for this category of large, green, job-creating projects. No CEQA waiver, no CEQA exemption, full CEQA everything. But because of the sunset date at the end of this calendar year, these two projects have yet to have their EIR certified. I can't speak for the project in Los Angeles, but the one I'm more familiar with in San Francisco, because of its further engagement with the community, moving from one site on some piers to a different site in Mission Bay to gain more community support, it had its certification process delayed and won't happen until the early months of 2016. This extends that opportunity through the end of 16. Without it, this great green money-generating project for the state, job-creating opportunity for the state will not occur. That's all this does. Also, the amendments are not germane to this bill. The amendments that were laid on the table should have been proposed for the drought bill, which is AB 115. That notwithstanding, that's what this is about. Everything else you've heard is just not true. I ask for your aye vote.
All debate having ceased, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen? Anderson? No. Bates? No. Bell? Aye. Berryhill? No. Block? Aye. Cannella? De Leon? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? Galgioni? Glazer? Aye. Hall? Aye. Hancock? Hernandez? Aye. Hertzberg? Aye. Hill? Aye. Hueso? Aye. Huff? No. Jackson? Aye. Lara? Aye. Leno? Aye. Leyva? Aye. Liu? Aye. McGuire? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Mitchell? Monning? Aye. Morlock? No. Morrell? No. Wynn? No. Nielsen? No. Pan? Aye. Pavley? Aye. Roth? Aye. Runner? No. Stone? No. Vidak? No. Wachowski? Wolk? Wolk, aye.
Please call the absent members.
Allen? No. Cannella? Gaines? Galgioni? Aye. Hancock? Mitchell? Aye. Wachowski?
Ayes 23, noes 13. The measure passes.